Today, we spared no expense as we unearthed the lost world, Jurassic Park. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hold Up, the show where we dive deep inside your childhood nostalgia, pull the movies from your past out to see if they truly hold up. Well, today's a big one, and there's no other place I'd rather be with my two co-hosts, Kyle and Andrew.
Greetings. How are we doing?
Shut up.
Hey.
You don't need to...
I asked how you were doing.
Yeah, but
I care about your existence, and you tell me to shut up? What does that say about you?
We have a hierarchy, and you've shit on that hierarchy because you just wanted to talk first.
I also negated my contract that I signed with you.
Yes, signed with the devil.
The devil, who is you. You are the devil.
Yes.
And I signed it in blood, and I broke a cardinal rule, and I apologize.
Not just blood, but...
fecal matter.
And fountain ink.
Speaking of fountain ink, the ink really dried on this contract for a sequel, and I'm talking about Jurassic Park, The Lost World.
That was a nice lead-in.
It's very good.
Impressive.
Yeah,
you should dabble in improv and comedy.
I think you should.
Yeah.
I actually...
Move to New York and just get with... what's the name of that fucking place?
I don't know what it is in New York.
I'm
It's
really
not Ass Cats.
No, it's Upright Citizens Brigade,
Yeah,
and there's also the Pit. Yeah, you should just give them all your money and go through the classes.
Go through the classes because that's
do the
going to
pyramid
get you...
scheme, and you're going to go far, Chase.
You're going to go very far.
So, here we go. Let's stick with what I know a little about.
You like
which
movies?
is the best. Yeah, I do like a movie. I love the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park series. I almost said Jurassic World, but
Thank
Jurassic
you for
Park
not saying
series.
3's my favorite.
We got to go over that one too. But this one...
Is that 2001?
Is this 2001?
I think 3's 2001, yeah.
Yeah.
It was 2002. Yeah.
It came
early
a little
2000s.
quicker, I think, right
Yeah, I
after
bet
The
it
Lost
did.
World. But
That's what she said.
this one is probably the biggest for any kid of the 90s. We have to go ahead and say that. We all loved the original Jurassic Park. It was a massive success. One of the best films of all time. One of the best books of all time.
Correct.
So we can say that without contest there.
But I will say, I just want to say that I was only like 2 years old when it came out. This one I was 5 going on 6. It was perfect timing.
It was like what we talked about. The Phantom Menace was our Star Wars. For better or for worse, The Lost World is our Jurassic Park, for better or for worse. This is late 90s kids. Or 80s kids probably do remember Jurassic Park when it first launched, and that was theirs, but this was a new generation. I mean, because enough time had passed.
Yeah.
What was it,
What,
like
5 years, 6 years, something like that?
5 or 6 years had passed between the making of the first one and the second one. So this one was probably one of the most anticipated sequels of all time. It has to be, right? Especially in the 90s.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I do remember the commercials for this were very they were black and white Velociraptor, and there's a big old caravan of camouflaged cars in black and white. But that was about it, and it was some kind of bloody letters that were it was the Lost World Jurassic Park. And I was fuck, I'm so hard for this movie right now.
yeah, we all went from 6 to midnight the minute
Immediately.
we saw these commercials. I know I did. I was pretty stoked. And this was a summer release, if I'm correct.
May, actually.
May.
Late May, so right before Memorial Day weekend, right on the cusp of summer.
Still back
Right
in
as you were getting out of school.
back in the day of summer blockbusters, which we don't really have those anymore.
Last year we did, but it's not every year thing.
Let's talk a little bit about the childhood. We've got a lot to cover on this one because it felt like this was very anticipated. Everyone was going to see it. Everyone was talking about it from the months leading up to it.
Can we talk about the toys?
Yes, let's start there. Andrew, what do you remember about The Lost World?
So I don't necessarily remember all of the trailers and commercials. I do remember a few commercials. There might have been a McDonald's commercial where a brontosaurus leaned over the drive-through box or something
Even though
silly
there were brontosaurus in that one.
Yeah, there were.
Yeah.
But the toys were what really brings me back because I had all of them. My parents got me all of that shit. I had the Triceratops. I had all the dinosaur figurines. I had the, what do you even call that vehicle that trapped the Triceratops? It had the 2 arms in the front.
What was a Humvee with some
Sort of a apparatus in the front. I had that. I had the poacher. I remember I had Jeff Goldblum's character in figurine form. I had it all, and I've carried that shit with me wherever. I remember tragically I lost one of the pieces at an Outback Steakhouse in Jacksonville, Florida back in the day.
Did you make a huge deal? Did you start sobbing in the car?
No, but I was upset. It was like the door of that vehicle, it was gone, and we went back in, and I guess they threw it out. But
good for them.
Yeah, I know, as they should.
It was a very heavily marketed
for sure
movie, and again, towards children, but this was definitely more of a little less of a Star Wars kind of marketing, a little bit more. There was a lot of adult themes in this movie, but the marketing...
They still marketed towards kids.
Chase and I were talking about the video games last night as well. There are plenty of video games that came out about this, arcade games that came out about this, but it was a kid's paradise. That's like all those trucks and all those figurines and
guns.
The guns that they had, and like it was definitely a time. I definitely had the Jeff Goldblum character and his red... And we'll talk about his outfit later.
He had his sunglasses on in the figurine form.
He didn't have sunglasses on except for in the very beginning.
Very beginning.
So
That's
good, though. That makes sense.
You know, that was Jeff Goldblum saying, hey, my action figure has to have sunglasses because it's got to be the cool action figure of the group. I had all those toys because the summer blockbusters, the best part about having a June 4th birthday is that was right around the time that Memorial Day weekend launch schedule. I was Men in Black, The Lost World, The Phantom Menace, all that got released around my birthday. So all that merchandise that they were trying to sell to kids was going straight to me. And I think even Batman and Robin, too, was
Batman
also
and Robin,
like
for
I
sure.
had a lot of like Batman and Robin stuff. So it was easy birthday gifts from my parents. And I had I had the truck, the big truck, and the big T-Rex, too.
I think I had the T-Rex as well, yeah.
The T-Rex was fun. It came with some disposable henchman that you could shove into the T-Rex's mouth.
Yep.
And then it had this like open wound in its stomach, and you could just pull him back out and
good.
just repeat the process
over and over again.
Yeah. So I had plenty. I didn't have very many of I had a lot more of the dinosaurs. I didn't have very many of the human characters.
There was another vehicle that I had. Maybe it was like the trailer that the scientists were in. I think that was one they sold as well.
And that one I had. I didn't have any of the other vehicles, but I had that one, which had the two compartments. So it had that rubber piece that connected them, and you could pull the rubber piece and like
bring
slam
it
it around if you had the T-Rex. So you could just relive that scene over and over again. And there was Mercedes-Benz logos on all of
Of course
toys.
there were.
Yeah, there
Lest
was
we forget, baby.
a big marketing push from Mercedes at that point.
They had their hand in all of this.
Come to find out when I was watching Top Gear years and years later, that when they had Jeff Goldblum on and they were having him do his lap around their track, before they did that, they started talking about, shooting that movie and what it was like to shoot a Jurassic Park movie. And he was quoted as saying, they gave me one of those Mercedes-Benz because I did the movie. I think he had it when he's like, I still have that car. I still drive that car around. I was like, there you go, Mercedes. It pays in other ways to be in these movies, if not monetarily, definitely with merchandise and other things like that. They hooked them up. It's really interesting. Just a car person thing here real quick. It's interesting that they chose like the M-Class and not the G-Wagon, because the G-Wagon is a military spec off-road
literally
car.
meant for the terrain they were in.
And the other one was just like, it was cool what they did to it. They made it off-road, and it is an SUV technically, but like it has more in common with a sedan than it does an SUV.
It's not their wheelhouse.
It's not, no. And I was like, that was interesting that they chose to use that one instead of the G-Wagon. But then I look back on it, G-Wagons are so expensive. They are some of the most expensive SUVs out there. I don't know how much they were at the time, but now they go upwards of $150,000, $200,000 for those cars, for those SUVs. So when they do, and I know we don't want to talk about Jurassic World too much, but they did use one of the only 6x6 SUVs of the G-Wagon for that film. And it's just them ramping it over a hill, kind of like they did in Jurassic Park with the Humvees. Or Lost World, rather.
Boy, did they ramp it, too.
Damn, did they do that. They ruined some cars. That's
like any of those car films. How many of, like in Smokey and the Bandit, how many cars did they go
so
through?
many.
Like,
but they had kit cars, I'm pretty sure, back then. I mean, we still have kit cars, but I think they used kit cars for that movie, specifically for just throw a shitty-ass engine in it or have it towed on a line, so they just zoom over it, and then it's, okay, we just toss it, it's done. Instead of just wasting all those beautiful Trans Ams.
Oh, my God, I know.
No, don't do that, please.
Yeah.
Piss me off.
When you talk about Jurassic Park, there's one name you have to talk about, and it's Steven Spielberg. And he's back to direct this one. Almost didn't. They had to talk him into it. He didn't know if he wanted to.
Y'all were surprised that he was the director last night, weren't you?
We
I
were.
didn't think that he was. Did not think that he was.
Because we did no prior research. I haven't seen this movie I've seen it a
Been a couple
lot in my
decades.
lifetime, but I haven't seen it in a long time. Usually, if I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to watch a Jurassic Park movie, it's the original. Or I recently went down the rabbit hole with the third movie a few years ago, and that was the last one I saw. But I watch Jurassic Park every year, never really think about the Lost World. And so it did surprise me that Steven Spielberg directed this, because there is some negative connotation with this movie, which we'll catch up to later on.
It's also tough to follow up with such a great original.
Yeah,
like
but-
sequels don't always hit.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a film sequel; it was a book sequel.
Book sequel,
and then
correct.
it was, and then it was,
Correct.
and the book, the second book, is just as good as the first in many ways. They're the same movie, but they're different. Same book, but different. So I think that helped their case in making this, and also helped that Michael Crichton wrote a second book for Steven Spielberg to then direct. If it hadn't been that and hadn't been no book, I don't think he would have done it.
Right, and that's what I was going to get to. Is Crichton didn't write it as a sequel book; he wrote it as a sequel movie, and so Spielberg was all on board at that point. So, yeah, we thinking about that now into like a bigger scale. It's like, of course, this movie had so much anticipation. You got the same guy coming back to direct, and at this point, Steven Spielberg was considered.
He was
one
top
of the
of the world.
best directors of all time.
was literally top of
Still
the world.
is. At that time, you couldn't get a better director than Steven
No.
Spielberg. There was a lot of up-and-coming directors at the time, but Spielberg was like A-class and Universal's go-to for anything that they tried to do that was on that scale. Let's talk a little bit about the all-star cast, too, that we have now.
Ooh,
It's fun.
Yeah. There was so many great actors in this, and I think they all pretty much nail their role for what it's going to be. There is some silliness to some of the characters, but in a world like this, I think you do have to have kind of the silly characters, and especially throwaway characters.
Which is different. That is different than the book. There's not a lot of funny stuff going on. Maybe like here and there, but they're very serious.
It's still a family film. That's another thing that I want to say now that we're kind of on the topic. The original Jurassic Park has some debate about it. What do you classify it as?
What as in terms
As
of
like action, adventure?
action adventure. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
The original Jurassic Park, to me, obviously it's got multiple genres in it. A lot of movies have multiple genres in it, but there's predominantly a lot of horror in the first Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
I would say more sci-fi horror, sci-fi
Yeah.
first and then horror, just because this is very well done science fiction, but it is still fiction.
Yeah.
But it's real enough that it does make it quite horrifying. Because they're not showing everything all at once. You kind of build up to it. You don't really see the velociraptors until you see the velociraptors. Like, you don't see the T-Rex until you see the T-Rex. This one, you know what's coming at you, but the situations they create in the second movie are more scary than the first.
Yeah, I think the way that they use the element of, to your point, suspense in the first movie, I thought it amplified the horror elements to it a lot. There's a lot of it that kind of reminds me of Alien in a way, like where you don't see a lot of the stuff that's coming your way, and then when you do see it, it's so well done, it just scares you lifeless. The velociraptors that they were able to create, this horrific killing machine, whether it's rooted in fact or not, is.
But after the fact. We'll talk about that when we start talking about stuff later.
They carry it over in the second film really well. But, I think like when you do anything on grandeur, right? I like comparing it to Alien because I feel like Alien and Jurassic Park 1 and 2 have a similar carryover. The first Alien, horrific, sci-fi horror all the way. But it has that same similar element to Jurassic Park where it is you're trapped with these creatures that just want to kill you and live.
I think it lines up more with Aliens than it does the original.
And that's what I was going to say. In the Lost World becomes Aliens because
Yeah.
Aliens like injected a lot more action into it. And yes, there is that horror element in both these movies, but it becomes more action adventure in that go-to sequel. So you lose a little bit of that, what the original film was intended to be.
Because you know what's at the end of the tunnel.
So yeah,
Jeff Goldblum had the perfect line: "Is you start off staring in awe and bewilderment, but then you start running and screaming at the end."
Yeah.
That's the perfect encapsulation of what this movie
right.
is. You know?
And of course, in this movie, they made more into a family-friendly film, I feel like. So, like, the horror elements are, even though they're there, they dumb them down a little bit more and make it more grandeur and inject the comedy that we're talking about. Because it feels like there was a little comedy in the first one, but there's a lot more one-liners or Jeff Goldblum's performance. Some of the shit he says in this is really funny to me, especially watching it back now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, definitely.
And there's Vince Vaughn.
He's not the same Vince Vaughn that you would think of like an old school and dodgeball, but he's still Vince.
It's still funny.
Yeah.
It's still funny. And
Dry delivery.
that arrogant humor,
Yes.
too. Do you know how he got this role?
No idea.
When they were shooting Swingers, Steven Spielberg went to the premiere so he can approve them using the Jaws theme song.
That's hilarious.
And he saw Vince Vaughn, and he was so enamored by his performance. He was like, I'm going to offer him The Lost World, and offered him The Lost World without a screen test. So Vince Vaughn got this role based on his performance in Swingers.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Vince Vaughn's a fucking legend. He's great at everything he does, so good for him.
I think it's time. Are we ready to jump right in? This is a long movie.
We'll shorten it up significantly for y'all, but it's
because
it's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a good a lot. This isn't a bad one, but damn.
Also, y'all are going to take the lead on this one because I was so tired when I watched it last
Well,
night.
we know how tired.
So in the first time in Hold Up history too, we all watched this one together. So our minds were synced up. So
Was it really the first time?
Yeah.
the first time? Yeah, all three of us anyway.
our minds and our cycles. were all
Because I was going to say Fifth Element, but you weren't there for that. So
synced up. No, I wasn't.
Yeah, no, this was the
how
first
neat! What an experience! Let's savor this.
time. Yeah.
You saying that makes me want to do this never again.
Before we dive in, Andrew, give us some of those box office mojo numbers.
Yeah.
That I've been looking for.
We got some hefty numbers here.
Or how hefty?
The budget was $73 million. Woo! And domestic opening, $72.5 million.
Wow, they made back their entire budget in a week.
Like that.
That's insanely good. Good for them.
But what did you expect? Let's be honest. Like
It was always going to be a blockbuster. The names in this are massive.
I'll say this too. 72 million though. That seems lower than I was expecting.
I mean,
I thought it would be right there.
to me that's pretty impressive. They almost make it all back within that first week. Like that shit slaps.
I feel like the budget was going to be closer to 100 million.
Yeah, it's the 90s. Adjust for inflation.
The B-roll stuff in Hawaii was probably the most expensive part aside from the animatronics.
And what we were talking about, they were going to shoot New Zealand and shoot more in Hawaii, and the budget got cut, so they moved a lot of that to California.
It would have looked better if they did it in New Zealand, but it doesn't matter.
Doesn't detract.
Now, Andrew, what did we do worldwide now?
Let's go domestic first. Domestic was $229 million and some change. International, worldwide, was $389 million and a half.
Wow. $500 million.
Add those together worldwide, it was $618 million and some change. So closer to 619. Insane numbers, right?
Plus, when you add merch sales into that, I mean, you're looking at over $1 billion.
You're for sure.
Of course, you adjust for all the marketing because this was a heavily marketed movie, but for reasons.
They almost made $1 billion,
So
close to that.
I imagine that was probably the highest grossing film of 97. So,
Yeah.
Titanic beat it.
That makes sense.
Titanic did beat it. Titanic is number 1, Men in Black number 2, and then Jurassic looks to be number 3.
now that we've got our numbers, this movie shattered everything. It was such a rousing success. I mean, we knew it was going to be. Let's dive right in. Let's talk about The Lost World Jurassic Park, baby.
Yeah. First scene, where are we, Kyle?
We open up on a beach in what's supposed to be Costa Rica. So, fun fact, I don't want to spoil the book for people, though, because the book is different. So I'm not going to spoil it, but I will say...
if you haven't read the book by now...
you spoiled it.
you spoiled it.
I'm not going to spoil everything. There's some really good stuff in there. But I will say this. At the end of the book, some of the consignathus, the compies, they're in the first book. They hitch a ride on one of the cargo ships that leaves with people on it, and they jump ship and then land in Costa Rica. The second movie picks up where the first book leaves off, not the first movie, which I always thought was interesting going back and looking at it. But we open up on a beach, and it's a very wealthy family.
The most unlikable family.
So unlikable. Just rich, probably oil tycoon money.
Billionaire type family.
Yeah.
This is like mega rich. We're on our own yacht cruise with
Servants.
100 servants.
Come here, Jeeves.
Yes.
Please, I need you right now.
Yes.
And then this little girl's off playing by herself.
Yes, the mother goes, Catherine, don't go too fast. We can't see you.
Oh, let her have some fun, Catherine, for once.
For what? The world is fine. We've never been here before, but it's fine.
Let her wander off on this unknown beach.
It's unknown beaches, probably landmines. She'll have to learn how to sweep them someday. She fucking just absconds off and just has a little sandwich that they give her. And she goes over to this little alcove that's out of eyesight of her family. Probably not too far away, but enough. She's just having fun. Out of the bushes pops a bipedal lizard, which in the book, she doesn't know that it's not she just thinks it's a lizard. Anybody who, who would be older than 7 would be like, that's a little fucked up. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to touch that.
In the movie, she looks like she's like 10, 11.
Yeah, she's a little older. So the fact that she doesn't know, and they're rich, she's probably very well educated. The fact that she doesn't know that this is not a normal thing, that to me is a little bullshit. We'll go with it just because it's a child. Whatever, cool. She's having fun. So
She gives it some beef tenderloin?
She gives it some part of her sandwich, like a piece of meat from her sandwich. And all of a sudden, all these other buddies pop up and they start jumping out and chirping. She's like, oh, I don't have enough for everybody. And then one of them nips her in the back of the leg and she goes, oh, here's my sandwich. Take my sandwich. And then all of a sudden you cut back to the family on the beach and you just hear, like, where's Catherine? Help. And then they take a moment, they pause, and they run after her. And it's a whole scene. You don't see it, but they're probably covering her. In the book, she is severely maimed, and they fuck her face up big time, and they got chunks out of her face and stuff. She's fucked up. So after that, the mom comes over, sees what's going on that we don't see, which I thought was a very good piece of storytelling. Don't show what's happening.
Yeah.
Horror is better sometimes when you don't try to show everything.
Especially in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Exactly.
Like, there's no need to blow your load that early. Like,
correct.
It's supposed to build, and Carpenter was a great director for that. But
yes.
So we don't see it. The mother screams. A match cut of Jeff Goldblum yawning on the subway.
And where are we at in the subway, Andrew?
New York City.
Andrew's favorite place.
City of Dreams, baby.
So I never read the book, so I don't have the comparison. But just from the movie standpoint, it was just a very start to a sequel.
You had that weird dude on the subway who like
and then you go
Bloom in the corner,
which was the most realistic. That was
very realistic.
New York subway interaction ever. So
people aren't that okay. You got weirdos on the subway.
Were you a weirdo on the subway in the 90s though?
Yes, of course. There was the subways have always been a haven for.
Yeah, but that dude was 90s weird.
Talk to you. Usually, I mean, I shouldn't say that. There's plenty of times it
but he's a celebrity.
He's famous. He's famous. So like a weirdo on the subway sees a celebrity, he's gonna talk to him.
It's fair.
It's like I mean, we all three of us have ridden a subway in New York at least one.
Too many times.
Yeah, too many times. But yeah, that's exactly how a New York subway. So I was like, bravo! Like we went the most realistic scene in the movie,
and they filmed on a subway. Like it was actually the interior of a New York.
And the guy looked like Scott Stapp from Creed.
Creed, yeah.
Maybe he'll take us higher next.
Now we're introduced to Jeff Goldblum, who is heading to Hammond's office.
He is going to Hammond's estate because Hammond is not doing well. I do like what they did with him crossing his character over from the movies. Again, movies being different than books. I like what they did with it. He's still John Hammond, but we come into his estate and Malcolm sees Timmy and Lex from the first movie. It's like the only time we see them, and it's a lost opportunity. I would rather have just I would have rather just not see them at that point. Also, fun fact: Timmy, the guy who plays him, was in the Pacific. He plays one of the main characters.
Oh, nice!
Right on.
Yeah, he's pretty cool.
And you also see a picture on John Hammond's desk when Malcolm starts talking to John Hammond. There's a picture of the kids from the first movie. It looks like a behind the scenes photo of them together. And they put it on the desk, and it kind of focuses on that. I'd rather you not see the kids and just focus on the photo.
Yeah, that would have been great. I agree. I think it was just kind of like fan service, but just poorly done.
Yeah, so no one cares about those kids.
Shush,
so we found out that Malcolm has written a book about what's happened on the first island. And he wasn't supposed to. He signed a non-disclosure agreement, so he's in a little bit of trouble with the
legal
Hammond
trouble,
estate.
baby.
Yeah. So
regardless of whether or not he was right or wrong, because they tried to paint over the deaths of a couple of the people. One of them being the lawyer, the game warden, and there was somebody. Oh, Tom Arnold, who was Samuel E. Jackson's character. Yeah, but Ian gets led up to John Hammond's room, and John's like, "You were right, Ian. You were right the whole time. You know, they were life finds a way, and just because the lysine was bred out of them, it didn't mean that they died. And the predators eat the predator."
That is Attenborough, right?
It's yes, and that is Richard Attenborough, David Attenborough's the late Richard Attenborough. Unfortunately, he did pass
Great
away.
performance.
Great
For what
performance.
little he's in there, but he
Amazing.
nailed it in the first movie too. Yeah, basically he's telling Ian, we moved all the dinosaurs off to a second island so that they can live and be free.
So, I'm going to correct you on that one because they didn't move them there. That was just a separate site. They had site A and site B, and they were on that other site.
Okay.
And they were not. They didn't move them there. They just had to abandon it because of all the legal fallout. So they kind of just left them to fucking do whatever, and they thought they would all die out, which is one of the reasons why they are going to go in there, because they have to have lysine in their diets, which the scientists and the biologists prepared for them. So they're like, well, how do they survive? They didn't have lysine in their diets. Life finds a way. So we're going to hear that a lot. And it's a good quote, but it's overquoted in this movie, in my opinion. It kind of dulls it down.
Right. It was a great quote in the first movie.
Great.
And then they just bury it like as the theme to this movie. And then Jurassic World, I don't want to mention it too much, but they absolutely beat you over the head with Life Finds a Way.
So what do we learn from this whole scene with John Hammond and Ian Malcolm?
He is preparing a group of scientists and biologists, I guess, and then photographers as well.
Some are already en route.
Some are already en route. He's preparing them to go to the island to show the dinosaurs existing in their ecosystem, so that he could fend off the rest of InGen, right? Because InGen is trying to procure the dinosaurs, saying they can't survive on their own. We're going to bring them back and basically make another theme park. I'm doing air quotes in the United States.
and the States.
San Diego.
San
Diego.
Hammond has a change of heart, which Malcolm says the best line of the movie: capitalist to activist to overnight.
We'll just put this in here now. Jeff Goldblum's line deliveries always are 10 out of 10.
He doesn't miss.
Except for a couple points of this movie that we'll talk about later. But
Yeah.
that's one of those line deliveries.
There's
that's
enough
just like,
ham.
That's
in
the
this
writing.
movie.
That's not him.
Yeah,
correct.
What's funny about all that too, as we move on to the next scene, Steven Spielberg did not let the actors prepare. He wanted them to deliver their lines as they're reacting to stuff. So they didn't have any rehearsals scheduled for this, which is why some of the lines come off weird at times. Is because it's a natural reaction. Spielberg always wanted the movie magic to happen. He didn't want everything to be so prepared that people were just delivering on time. I think that they're still written lines. I think they know their lines. I don't think
But they don't know how to fully react.
rehearse. Yeah, so they didn't react until they got on set. That was them.
This crew of scientists that Hammond has prepared, Jeff Goldblum's girlfriend is in it that he didn't know about. He didn't know that his girlfriend was being sent out to the island off Costa Rica. That was a surprise to him.
Yes, and he was not happy about it
It's just funny that your girlfriend of I don't know how many years, but they seemed fairly serious. Wouldn't tell you that you're going to an island off Costa Rica to document dinosaurs.
And nor did he he was like, where did she go? She hasn't been here.
I guess the argument they make later on in the movie is like, I'm the best kind of girlfriend there is, the one who's never around. Which is like, yeah, but wouldn't you know?
No.
And also, it's not like she has a mundane job. She deals with large predators across the world, in Africa, India, like South America. Like she's like big cats.
So Malcolm hearing that, because Hammond wants Malcolm on the island because he's the biggest proponent to try to say, hey, we don't need to move these animals. They're fine on this island. So he wants to get Malcolm. Malcolm's like, fuck you, I'm not going. Remember what happened last time? I do. And then he finds out his girlfriend, and he's like, oh, I guess I'll go save her.
It's a rescue mission. It's turned into a rescue mission.
It turns into a rescue mission in his eyes. Everyone else sees it as a great opportunity to get to the island and see these dinosaurs. We make it to the island. Not a whole lot happens in the first 40 minutes. It's moving quick. We're introduced to new characters. We're introduced to Vince Vaughn, who's a photographer.
They're like the loading dock or whatever they're pressing.
He's a Greenpeace person who's also an activist. He's been to Bosnia, Kosovo, Rwanda. He's seen genocide, is what he's saying.
He's documented genocide.
So he's seen shit.
We introduced to Malcolm's daughter.
Yep. who just fucking runs in and is just now a part of the story.
Yeah.
And this is how we get to our kid. This is why it's a kids movie. There has to be a kid in these. Every single Jurassic Park movie, there is a child.
Yeah, and like Welcome to the '90s, she is the only black character in this film.
For real.
Only.
Yeah.
And what was Vince Vaughn's character's quote? What did he say?
Later on.
I don't
Do you
see the
see-
family resemblance.
Don't see the family resemblance there. Well, that's not how biology works, friends. So congrats. Yeah. So it was a little.
We
a little
laughed
spicy.
at that, though.
We did.
We did laugh.
Yeah, us three white guys laughed it off, and
Did not hold up. We'll go ahead and put that
that-
stamp on that one. Like, let's not do that one again. But anyway, he's like fighting with her, telling her that she's going to stay with a babysitter because he's going to this dangerous island. You can't come with me. She wants to come with him.
You're never around, Dad.
Yeah.
Blah, blah,
It's
blah.
Family drama we don't need in this movie. That's another strike for me. I get what we're trying to set up here, but it's just a character we don't need. Which, fun fact on this character, this little girl, the reason she was hired by Steven Spielberg was for the same reason Vince Vaughn was.
She just like
He saw her in I forgot the name of the movie, A Little Princess or something along those lines. And he actually was meeting the cast afterwards and getting autographs because Spielberg is a big movie fan. And that's what I love about Steven Spielberg. He saw the little girl and said, your performance was so great. Yeah. Next movie I do, I want you to be in it. And it happened to be The Lost World. So that's how she got signed on for it.
And to be clear, she's very good in this movie. Great child actor. Very good.
But just a character that's just kind of tossed in there.
Kind of annoying, too.
It does, but like my whole thing is like
very annoying.
Yes, but the purpose of her being in there, in my eyes, would be to raise the stakes. Does she raise the stakes? No, not really.
Yeah.
She's just you just know she's going to be. Okay.
Kind of forget about her
at times. Yes,
yeah, she's only there at certain points. She is also a character written to move Malcolm from different location to different location, which I hate. She's like a little pawn. Mm-hmm. So when she moves, Malcolm's got to move there. So how do we get Malcolm from point A to point B? His daughter. Oh, we could do better than that.
It could have been done a little bit better.
Yeah, and I'm talking specifically for this character.
We're going from a 10 out of 10 movie, and we're taking points away right now.
But we make it to the island. Malcolm's got all the technology. They've got M classes all over the place.
They've got Mercedes-Benz M classes that have been revamped to be something they're not. And they've got a giant trailer that has that really fun CTA bus.
It's a big research trailer.
It's
like massive,
giant.
Like a military research trailer.
Yeah,
like it's so big.
Everything's camouflage. When I was a kid, that was the coolest part. All their gear they had, all this stuff, so cool. And we haven't even got to the coolest part from like a child standpoint yet.
When you see that as a kid, you're like, I'm about to see some shit.
Shit's about to go down.
We're clipping over some of this right now because
it's just too much.
It's just setting it up. They're almost about to port to the island. The guy that has the boat with all their equipment on it was like, I am not going near that island.
Vince Vaughn is translating. It's Spanish.
Vince Vaughn speaks fluent Spanish. Yeah, and good for him.
The way he was translating it, too, made me think he does not speak.
I thought he was making it up, honestly, but he was
actually speaking Spanish.
He was actually translating it perfectly.
Could have been a little bit better than Vince.
It was so sarcastically delivered from Vince.
It seemed like he
Cinco
was
muertes. 5 deaths.
Yeah.
I will not go near that island, he says.
I will not go near that island. Too many people go near this island and go missing.
Yeah.
They do not go near this island. And it's like, so it sets up that the locals know about the island.
Which we don't need to know. Yeah, so again, this is something that could have just been...
Again, we set that up with the little girl getting her face ripped off.
We understand. We get that.
Yeah, we get that. We get
they're just bolstering it, you know?
Yeah, for real. That's what we need. So they get onto the island. I don't even think we see them exit the barge they're on. They're just on the island all of a sudden.
They go straight to where they're running around the island and looking for Sarah, which is Malcolm's girlfriend.
But we also see our first glimpse of one of the first GPS ever made, friend. Yeah. And it's just like this shitty Tom. And they magically just find Ian Malcolm's girlfriend, Sarah Harding. They come across some Stegosaurus, and then that's the first time everybody's like, the theme music comes in.
Very much reminiscent to the first film when they see the Bronchiosauruses, and they're all like, oh my God, I can't believe it. So they're doing that. And then Sarah does the dumbest thing I think I could ever see a scientist do. What does she do, Andrew?
She extends her hand out and starts petting the beak of the Triceratops baby that's 2 times her size. And just, why would you do that? Because then later on, as I guess Vince Vaughn's character was doing something, she yells at him. She's like, we're here to
observe, not to interact.
Not interact, but what the hell were you doing when you were touching that baby's nose?
Just with your human, disgusting hands.
But that's like my whole...
That baby got
looking back... yeah, for sure. Looking back on that whole thing, that's the one part of this movie that it takes off an entire point, like from the 10-point scale, because like that's dumb as fuck. You wrote that in there, and she touches it just because... What does Jeff Goldblum say, though, Andrew? Right when she's trying to touch... What does he say?
What does he say?
He says... It's so touching. Always touch. She always has to touch it. She always has to touch it. That's a funny line. What a funny line. You wrote that in there to have a funny line. And now we've completely ruined her reputation as somebody that we can believe, because then she goes forward and then she's like, we're here to observe. We're not here to interact. We're here to do this, that, and the other. And you've already done that, though. What else have you been doing while you're there?
Her character was so poorly written. Like,
and it's Julianne Moore. Like, she's a powerhouse. She can do anything with anything.
And she acted well.
Yeah, very well.
Her character was acted well enough, but it was a dumb character, and she has no credibility. No. She seems as a huge liability. Like, from the moment you met her, and she's supposed to have this incredible reputation. She was hand-selected by Hammond to go to this island. Like, she has to be one of the best scientists out there. But now you see her, she's touching shit. She's, like, leaving her backpack strolled around. She's just... constantly just in the way, and I'm like, no wonder.
That's just bad writing.
Yeah, right.
Bad writing.
It's a man writing a woman's character, and then Malcolm has to come there and save her. It is a tale old as time. At first, you're like, Malcolm, leave her the fuck alone. Now you're like, you need to save that woman.
Yeah, because she's not getting it. She's about to get yeeted.
Yeah, real fast.
So they have this whole interaction with the Stegosaurus. She has a camera. After she tries to... I don't know. Does she actually touch the beak, or does she get close to touching it? Doesn't matter.
No, she touched it. She actually touched it.
Whether or not she does, it's the fact that she tries to do it that ruins it for me. But she tries to take a picture of the little baby, and the camera makes a weird sound, and all of a sudden the Stegosaurus is like, yeah, fuck this shit.
Film, which kids will never know about today.
And then they come after her, apparently offensively, which is what...
You're hoping she dies at this point.
She hides in the trunk of a hollowed out tree.
And they stab their spiky ass spines in it, which
and of course it dramatically misses by 6 inches.
Yes, so that happens, and all of a sudden they're gone, and then
they do one stab and they leave. Yeah. If that was a case where they feel threatened, they're going to murder her. And there was nothing that any of them could have done that, because they have one trank gun that's a bolt action.
But they were going to use it, but then Eddie, the guy, is like, they're just protecting their baby, and they are. So why would you fucking kill them for trying to, when she's dumb enough to get close? Let her die.
Let her die.
Let her
die.
She
deserves that.
But it was a trank gun too.
No, that wasn't the trank gun. They had the poison gun where it killed
I keep losing, because they had like these big trank guns
right?
too that were like the same size, and they
look.
You know what?
Yeah, exactly.
I think we might have just found a story hole, because I think they conflate one with the other, and it's the same gun, but they're like, no, this is the one that kills them. Maybe they have different darts. Who fucking knows? I'm confused.
Yeah, I was confused because I always thought that he was carrying, because the trank gun that they use later on is the same fucking size as the murder weapon.
Looks exactly like the other.
Same thing.
So
again, great writing.
Yeah, it's just there's a lot going on that might have
trying to
slipped
protect
through the
their
cracks.
baby.
Yeah, well, they protect the baby. They get Sarah out of there. They go back to their base camp that we never see them establish, but it's just established now on this mountaintop cliff. And all of a sudden, oh, there's a fire. Where's the fire coming from? And who pops out? Uh-oh. It's Ian Malcolm's daughter. Uh-oh. You told me not to listen to you, Dad. Yeah, for sure. Do you think he meant go inside of this trailer? Which, by the way, how long do you think it took him to get from New York City? Isn't that where they started their journey from?
New York City.
Barge.
All the way down to near where the
west coast
Galapagos Islands are.
Costa Rica?
Yeah. I think that probably would have taken him a week or two. So she's just surviving in the back of that fucking bullshit.
Bullshit. Yeah, that's a bullshit right there.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look in the RV when they're cleaning it up, there's food everywhere.
She looks like
there was like a week worth of food everywhere.
She looks like she's been living there.
Bunch of junk food, though.
Yeah,
but he's furious at her.
Kids live off junk
and they're
food.
having this whole domestic dispute. Him and Julianne Moore having this giant domestic dispute about, oh my God, why don't you do this? And how come you never do this? And like, well, I'm staying here and I don't need you right now.
Go to a foreign island unprotected.
Yeah, well, I don't understand why anybody wouldn't do that. That seems like a really sound idea. They got to learn somehow.
Then we see a lot of military aircraft flying through the air.
Yep.
And then we hear Eddie say, well, it's got InGen on that chopper.
Why would they send two teams? I thought we were the only two teams here.
So, and this is where the picks up the story of what Hammond was talking about earlier, where the team that was coming to take the dinosaurs to the newly constructed theme park in San Diego are now intersecting with the team that's trying to save it. So now we've got two competing teams with different agendas.
They're completely different. And this is where the movie gets interesting. And this is where stuff starts to like really move along.
This is where the action happens, where you're seeing this military team and they're fucking up the place. That's where we see the Humvee ramp in the air and
they
land
just completely
on
ruins
the
it.
nose. Yeah, so like,
I mean, like,
those
here's
guys
the thing.
are dead.
We did Andrew when that happened yesterday. I could see him cringe because it goes over that berm and it just fucking nosedives.
It nosedives. It hits the very front end of the grill, but then somehow it gets back on its all fours and drives off.
I heard Andrew's like breath leave his body too when he saw that. I heard him go.
I don't understand why we have to do that with vehicles in movies to show that they're going off road.
I think that was an accident. I think it was like one of those things where the car was just going too fast, and then they shot it, and they were like, "Well, it's cool as shit. We're keeping it in."
Wouldn't it be funny if, like, when they were actually filming it, like it was a huge disaster, and they just had to like edit it over somehow to make it seamless?
You'd be surprised how much that happens.
People got ejected from the car.
Yeah, people like broke their legs.
I didn't understand the implications of this until later. That these are not the good guys.
Yeah,
At no point. These are bad.
poachers.
These are poachers, and they're fucking assholes. But the kind of shit they have is so cool, and they're going around these fucking cars. And what are they doing when they're in these cars?
So they're just
like tearing up the land,
capturing like a bunch of rednecks, basically driving around as quickly as they can now, and they're spearheading some of these dinosaurs. They're trying to capture them. They're capturing They have like a cowboy-esque paleontologist with them.
He looks like Chris Stapleton, honestly.
Yeah.
He's a big old bushy beard, like a white Western-looking cowboy hat. He wears glasses. He's the lead scientist, if you will.
And they're just running around poaching at this point and capturing. But I will say at this moment, we're introduced to probably my favorite character in the whole movie. And that's the lead poacher or hunter? How would you describe him?
He's definitely a poacher. He's leading big game hunts in Africa.
His monologue was incredible.
I'm trying to find it real quick.
He's talking to that
Here we
weasel.
go. Peter, if you want me to come on your little camping trip, I'll have to stop from the top. I need to get this thing down. Peter, if you want me to run your little camping trip, there are two conditions. Firstly, I'm in charge, and when I'm not around, Dieter is. All you need to do is sign the checks, tell us we're doing a good job, and open a case of scotch when we're having a good day. Second condition, my fee. You can keep it. All I want in exchange for my services is the right to hunt one of the tyrannosaurs, a male, buck only. How and why are my business. Now, if you don't like either of those two conditions, you're on your own. So go ahead, set up base camp right here, or in a swamp, or in the middle of a T-Rex nest for all I care. But I've been on too many safaris with rich dentists to listen to any more suicidal ideas, okay? You can tell all you need to know from his character right there. He's a big game hunter. He takes dentists.
Serious as fuck.
And he doesn't, all he wants to do is the thrill of the chase. He's like essentially a turn of the century
General
Victorian,
Zarnoff, but not with humans, with dinosaurs.
With dinosaurs.
He's a bad guy.
Yes.
He's a bad guy. But a lot of people write these villains or these bad people kind of like, whoa, a little bit. Like
cartoony in a sense.
Yeah, cartoony.
There's nothing cartoony about this.
Maniacal.
He's very serious, but he's very human too. Like he's not there to hunt people or kill them or throw them in the way. He saves several people, and he's trying to save people. He just doesn't care if you fucking die. No. He's like, listen to me. If you don't want to listen to me, you're dead. You're dead. I'm sorry about that.
But he's right though, and you can't. And that's why this movie, it adds a layer of realism in this movie that's very good.
Because you almost at this point you're like, oh man, he's a fucker, but also Malcolm, get next to him and follow that guy because that guy's going to lead you out of here.
Mm-hmm. And him and his elephant gun.
Yeah, him and his elephant gun. Malcolm's team is seeing all this, and now they know they're one-on-one with the shitheads.
The InGen poachers.
We fast forward, and we see the big game hunter now has found the T-Rex nest, right?
This is around the time that, like, our other team, our good guy team, is like, they're witnessing all this stuff and the cruelty to the animals and stuff. So we see that, and we have to keep that in the back of our mind because that progresses the story a little bit later. So while that's all happening, what's his name? What was the guy's name?
Roland
Tembo and Ajay, his second person, his tracker, find the T-Rex track. They follow it to the T-Rex nest, which has to smell like, I can only imagine what horror and death. It's just a bunch of carcasses, and there's
flies everywhere.
Just a little T-Rex baby hanging out there, eating some scraps. And what do they do to it? What do they do to that poor little thing?
They break its leg.
And they tie it to a stake and wait for the T-Rex to come back so he can kill it.
Just screaming and yelling. Girlfriend has an idea that dinosaurs will not abandon its young. The theory is that dinosaurs don't care about their young and they abandon it. That actual theory came from one of the consultants, one of the paleontologist consultants on set.
That goes back to the first movie in the first book. He's actually who Alan Grant is based on.
Yeah.
And he's a real person, Jack Horner. He's a very well-known paleontologist who had a lot of ideas that were not so well thought of. And kind of like we had a little heated discussion last night during this movie about some of these things. But this is like when you test the waters of the paleontological world and you don't have founded evidence, because how could you? You're going off of fossils and you're essentially piecing together a puzzle. But he's one of the preeminent. I don't know if he still is. I don't know if he's still practicing.
And to give the guy credit too, a lot of this stuff was founded out too later on, or because it's an ever evolving world, like space and astronomy.
Yes. So we can't sit here. I was segueing in what I was going to say is like we can't sit here and just call this like that's bullshit. They didn't do that. They didn't know some of this stuff back then.
And me and Kyle talked about this too last night. Is a lot of Jurassic Park is explained. I watch paleontologists watch Jurassic Park and say, oh no, this wouldn't happen, this wouldn't happen, this wouldn't happen. But a lot of it is explained because to get these dinosaurs here, it's DNA splicing. They're spliced with different creatures and different animals to finish the DNA code.
Because they get it from the mosquito or however they get the DNA, and there's gaps in the DNA sequence, which I'll just tell y'all right there, spoiler alert, this could never happen because DNA's half-life is like 500,000 years, and we're talking about things that have millions. So no matter what, it's a moot point to get on them about these because they're not real dinosaurs. You know what I mean?
But even if this were possible, you say that the DNA half-life was longer, these are finished with other animals. These dinosaurs are going to look different than the dinosaurs that lived then. And plus, dinosaurs that even evolved for millions of years and lived now would still look different than their counterpoint back then. So it doesn't matter. I think it's arguing to argue.
Correct. And Andrew was saying this last night, it's part of the movie. That's the point, is that they aren't. And these are man's creations of what we think dinosaurs are, as best as we can clue it in. They are dinosaurs, but they're not. They are, but they aren't. So that whole argument about
that's not accurate. That's not. They wouldn't. The Stegosaurus wouldn't use it.
It's like those paleontologists on those things.
They wouldn't use it like that. And the T-Rex definitely had the visual acuity.
Well, yeah, but no.
Not one's being spliced together with a bat.
Correct.
So,
Yes.
We digress.
Let's get back to the topic at hand.
So the topic at hand here. In the meantime, Malcolm's crew now, because I don't have a better name for them, are trying to find a way to free the captured dinosaurs.
Pretty fucking easy.
Pretty easy because
way too easy.
Yeah, exactly. So they find the camp where all these dinosaurs are being taken to, and Vince Vaughn's like, I'm good. I got it, and pulls out a fucking monkey wrench.
But there's like a singular latch for each of the cages.
He
just pulls the spike out, and the door is open.
Yeah, so
that's all it was.
Like a dog cage.
Yeah.
So they open all the cages and they let all the dinosaurs loose, and in the camp is one of the other CEOs or executives.
We like a Zoom call from
like a 1990s Zoom call with a bunch of billionaire and
shit.
Investors. Is like, look at these animals. We're gonna move them to the park. Here's an amphitheater.
They're going to San Diego.
Yeah, here's the amphitheater we built in San Diego. Look at the amphitheater. It could be finished in 30 minutes, and then we can put dinosaurs in it and sell record number of tickets and blah 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 blah.
And then mid-sentence he gets wrecked by a triceratops.
Yeah, triceratops.
And they're like, oh shit, our dinosaurs are loose. What do we do?
Who could have ever foreseen this to happen?
Well, what do they do, Andrew?
They fucking ruin everything. They destroy
the dinosaurs,
everything.
Never stood a chance.
They get
flatten
out,
their camp.
They ruin the camp and all getaways. I found it funny because there 45 minutes of them running around the island capturing all these dinosaurs is just taken back by one monkey wrench and Vince Vaughn.
And his hand.
Yeah, it's his hand. He didn't even use the monkey
He
wrench.
didn't. He just had it there for decoration.
Transitioning right along. So
Vince Vaughn takes the injured baby T-Rex,
just cradles it,
swims with it across a tiny little embankment river, And Sarah Hardin goes, "You're crazy, Nick. You're crazy, Nick. You're crazy, Nick." He is crazy. He directly leads to the death of somebody later on
But also an incredible dramatically scene.
The baby is screaming bloody murder.
But it doesn't have a muzzle. Does it have a muzzle on
no,
it?
not yet.
Oh, so it's just literally squelching.
He literally just picked it up, broken leg and all, and carried. I don't know how it did bite him. And plus, the T-Rex baby too. Me and Kyle mentioned this is way smaller than a T-Rex baby would be.
Yeah, this is like the size
Apollo
of like a
Kyle's
Great
dog, pretty
Dane,
much.
maybe.
It's
It's
probably
like a bit smaller than that.
The way that he carries it, it's like less than 100 pounds.
But to be fair, they wouldn't weigh terribly much because their bones are hollow. So.
And we also don't know. So
He has a broken leg too, so like that's going to take down some density.
Yeah.
So they put it in the big research van. They're going to try to fix its leg up and do the vet thing. So Sarah and Vince Vaughn are working on that, and that's when it gets real for Malcolm's daughter. She sees the T-Rex screaming, and also it's heavy rainfall at this
Downpour,
point, like
yeah.
just downpour,
the
which
jungle, rainforest.
atmosphere, if you will. So they're in the van, and Malcolm's daughter's like, "I need to get out of here. I don't like it. I don't like it here." And because she's smart, and she knows what's going to happen, and
I want to go high. I want to go somewhere high.
it's somewhere high. So let's. What if only we had somewhere that was a high place where we could hide? What what do they have, Andrew?
Hey, hide.
Hide.
Hi, hide.
Hide. So there's this winch system with this cage that they were able to get above the trees, above any predator.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Was there a tree above them that got that up there?
I don't know
never
how that
made
even
any sense.
worked. It had to be like a crane.
It was like a giant cherry picker.
It was, but like it
But
was
you never
above.
saw it.
The whole point was that they winched it around a tree branch to bring it up there, but wouldn't it be at the branch level? It was it was above the branch.
Yeah, it was like almost at cloud height.
You know,
Like, it
maybe
was
we just didn't see the other side of that.
No,
shot,
no,
guys.
it had to be like, again, bullshit. That whole thing was stupid.
It was.
But
It didn't make any sense.
But it's only written there to get his daughter at safety.
And so we could get a really cool shot of.
Moving trees and whatnot. Right?
Yeah, that was a cool shot. As he gets his daughter to the high hide, and such a stupid name. So he gets her up there with the other
Jimmy?
What's
No,
his
it's
name?
Eddie.
Eddie.
I knew it was something with
So they're
an E
all
at the
three
end.
up there while Nick and Sarah are in the van trying to fix up T-Rex's leg. And then we look over, and it's a great shot, but you see the trees just almost bowing completely down. You see two of them, two pass. The birds leave the trees and fly off, and you're like, oh
It's
my
the Tyrannosaurus Rex. the
They're coming
apex
for their
predator.
baby. So I guess proves Sarah's point.
Proves
they
it
will
right
not
away.
abandon
She's a
them.
brilliant scientist.
So they not a liability at all, even though
No.
here she is bringing this into the camp.
Queen.
They should have just left. They should have unplugged. Whatever. I'm not even going to waste my.
We
breath.
We don't need that'd be a whole other
So,
tangent.
so he sees it coming, and there's a cell phone, like an ancient cell phone up there, and he's calling into the van, and they won't answer because they're working on the leg of the T-Rex. And Malcolm's like, damn it, answer. And he's trying to get them to answer so he can warn them about the T-Rex. They don't listen. So Malcolm's like, I gotta go down. And how does he go down?
He
Andrew?
throws a rope over, and Eddie's like, make sure you squeeze hard. Make sure you squeeze hard. And what's he do, Kyle?
He doesn't squeeze at all. He just falls down. But then Eddie does say after that, he goes, I would have squeezed a little harder.
Because you hear him hit the ground.
Which I thought was really fucking funny.
But
That was a really funny line.
You hear him hit branches to go down. But
You're like, why didn't he compound fracture both of his legs?
Yeah, so I think
the
he
branches
would-
broke his fall.
But keep in mind, he's above the trees. He is falling maybe 100 feet.
couple 3-4 stories.
Yeah, so
maybe?
he would be probably dead, or at least if he's on the ground, he's got internal injuries. He's
Broken
got
leg.
legs. He's not.
But it's a funny Looney Tunes moment, Chase. Shut up.
Yeah, we're suspending fiction as it is with this movie, so just let it go.
He gets in the truck. He's trying to warn them. The T-Rexes show up, and it's horrifying. You can see T-Rexes
Truly
on either
terrifying.
side of the
Either side.
van. Their eyes looking into the van itself, seeing them and seeing the baby. So they're
And
like,
it's not CGI. Those are animatronics that they're using. And
the animatronics.
Very real. Incredibly real.
It hits totally different than CGI.
And
I got goosebumps. I was like, if that happened in real life and you just saw that thing staring at you, I mean, I would piss myself.
I think
I would
saw-
shit and piss myself.
I think I saw a
would.
fact, and I could not verify it, but I think these were the biggest animatronics ever built.
Probably makes sense.
Probably. I mean, they're giant fucking T-Rexes.
Because their legs are built with this. Usually half the time you see the animatronics and they're they shoot it to where only half the animatronic is built. They built the whole damn thing, and they built 2 of them, and they're on either side.
That's where most of that budget went. That's why
where
we didn't go to New Zealand, friends.
Yeah, it didn't go into the writing. One thing that I didn't also like in this is so they immediately give the baby back, right? Mm-hmm. That was your one bargaining chip.
Yeah,
they're animals. They're going to kill you. Like they're going to kill you. Now that you've given them what they want, they're going to kill you. Like.
Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
shouldn't have done that.
So they give the baby back, and then they're sitting there thinking, "Oh, we're fine right now." And they call back up to the high, and they're like, "Hey, no, we're good. We get the baby back." And then he's like, "Yeah, it looks like the dinosaur. It looks like the T-Rexes are leaving with the baby." But next thing you know, what does Malcolm say, Kyle?
He goes, "Hang on, this is going to be bad." At that level, no alarm in his voice. Not like, hang on, it's going to be bad. Hang on, it's going to be bad.
Or
it's
hold
like,
on to something.
Yeah, or like, brace yourselves. It was a dynamic...
It was a movie line.
Yeah, it was a movie line. Jeff Goldblum line, more so.
But, and I don't see what, like, when they cut to the scene of the trailer, because the T-Rexes are attacking the trailer now, and it's rolling. When you see what he was looking at, he was looking straight into the wall. So you don't, like, so he had to just sense it, I guess? I don't know.
I think what they're trying to go for is, he can see through the screen door something coming. And he just knows from the first movie when he got his shit fucked up, he's like, oh shit, hang on, this is going to be bad. But like, you wouldn't say it like that. If you saw something like that out of the corner of your eye, you would be like, it just doesn't track.
And it's a very action-packed scene.
It is.
It's a pretty long scene, but
it is a long
and the
scene.
Gist of it is the T-Rex are pushing the van over a cliff. It's raining, so it's muddy. And this scene is where I get kind of like some bullshit vibes here. Mm-hmm. But anyway, it's fun. It's action-packed. But they're pushing the van over. The door comes off of it. The back door falls off, and I guess they put plate glass over the door, which
I don't know if it was like a viewing area to have there, but it also didn't really make any sense to me.
It's flipped upside down. They're hanging onto this structure.
There's 2 parts to this van.
Well,
you have that front carriage, and it's connected by that little metal piece or whatever in the middle,
Yeah.
and the back carriage, which is what they're stuck in, and it's folded over at the fulcrum over that cliff, so the back half is dangling while the front half is still on land.
Which, okay, I'm going to also call bullshit here a little bit, because it wouldn't just be that little mesh, like, rubber part hanging on. There would be like a transaxle in there. There'd be something connecting the drivetrains together. It would be, if that back part's going off, that front part is also going off at the same time.
Yeah, and it's a muddy cliff. The cliff is not like sound struck, and you can even see it. Like the tires are like seeping into the mud, so the cliff would, with that much weight on it.
I call bullshit.
Yeah, so it's just hanging there.
But it's one of those stereotypical dramatic moments in an action movie where you let it happen.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's because it's entertaining.
You let it be.
I can accept some of it, but it keeps going. As we progress through this, Eddie comes down because he saw the T-Rexes fuck them up. The T-Rexes leave again, and Eddie's able, which I don't know why they keep leaving and then coming back and then leaving again.
Dramatic suspense. I don't know.
They leave again, and Eddie comes down and he sees them in the predicament that they're in. He's like, what can I get you guys? And, Sarah's already fallen on the glass. The glass is already broken, but they're able to hold on to the side somehow. And they're like, a rope and double cheeseburgers with extra fries. Like, he makes that stupid comedic line that's like really shoehorned in there.
It was just a McDonald's, because I think McDonald's they were the fast food chain that got a hold of the kids' toys for this. So
they were.
So that was just
So
them.
we had to make a McDonald's order in it, like when you're about to die. Yeah. Well, anyway, Eddie goes and gets the rope, throws it over, ties it to a tree, throws it over, and through the carriage. So they're all holding on to the rope. Which, keep in mind, it is raining.
It's pouring, actually.
It's pouring.
You're holding on to a rope if you're not trained to do it. You don't know how
That's
to do
exactly what I mean.
it. That's
Common
man.
man.
Not happen.
I don't care how strong or how fit you are.
You're not supposed to ever use just your upper body to hold onto a rope. You're supposed to J-hook it in with your feet so that you're using your lower and your upper body to hang on. And then you can sit there as long as you want to. Were they J-hooking?
No, they were just dangling with their
so
hands.
It's just,
and what got me is like they didn't act really well here because their arms were completely 90-degree angle.
Yeah, no.
So it's like it's not even like a dramatic like hold.
They're just like
extended out.
I'm
like
fine.
Like he's holding it out like elbows out wide. Just
I have the grip strength in my chest, forearms, biceps, and upper back to make this happen. That's working well. So that
Vince Vaughn is a great dodgeball player.
He is a
so
great
he probably
dodgeball.
does have
Quite the
grip
athlete.
I wanted to hear what Patches had to say about that.
So they're holding on, and then the T-Rexes show back up. Eddie's trying to use the M class to pull
Which
that
which weighs probably
Not even
I don't
a
know,
fourth.
a fourth, probably like a fifth of what that trailer weighed. Probably less than that. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't
It's
have
not
the proper tires
the physics,
either.
No, the physics in that one aren't going to work well. And at best, it's just slowing down the progression of this thing falling over. However, you do see a good moment where the tires are kind of turning counter to each other, which would be something real that you would have on a rig like that to kind of help it from a situation like that, like anti-lock kind of thing with your wheels. Yeah. But it's still not going to make that much of a difference because the whole ass half of it's off. It's not going to work. So we don't need to go over that again.
Ass
but
half with 3 humans,
in it.
Equipment. And
so they basically what happens now, Eddie's trying to help him out, and then T-Rexes come back, both of them, and the T-Rex one of them rips the thing off.
Destroys that car.
He rips him in half, doesn't he?
Well, it gets the top off. Eddie is trying to dodge it, and he's trying to get his Trent gun out. But this is a thing from the book. Over designing things, be careful. And the tip of the gun gets caught in the mesh that they didn't need to have, that they put in there anyways in this overbuilt Mercedes, and he can't get his Trent gun out to help him. And then what happens next, Andrew?
He gets ripped in half.
They literally rip him in half.
Yeah.
They take him out, flip him upside down, and you hear him go, ah!
One gets his head, the other gets his legs, and they pull him apart.
Pretty gruesome death.
Yeah.
Pretty gruesome death.
He died instantly, but
Maybe. Probably.
hopefully.
Then the car and the van go all over the cliff.
And of course, miraculously, those 3 that are hanging on the rope needle their way through the 2 open carriages as it passes down into the cascading waters below.
As well as the other, as well as the Mercedes
that just misses them.
just happens to miss the bullshit.
Again, you suspend belief a little bit, but
It works.
A lot of it.
It's not the
Whatever.
worst. This is not the worst thing we've seen. Batman and Robin, but it's definitely okay. But it works enough to move the story along. We get rid of a character,
and then guess what? The Tyrannosaurus Rexes, they vacate the area for good this time.
Yeah.
Right? But they don't come back.
Yeah, and then right as all this happens, they're able to use their massive dodgeball grip strength to get all the way up to the cliff.
Yeah.
All the way to the cliff.
To find that the
After
T-Rexes
they've been
aren't
holding
there.
on for God knows how long, they get all the way up and they find, and this is where the second crew and the first crew meet.
Yeah, meanwhile, one thing that bothered me was why didn't he go back to his daughter at this point? Why didn't he have a moment where he was like, hey, I'm here for you. I didn't leave you. We're here. I'm alive. They didn't do that.
They
Yeah.
got
They
the
skipped
daughter
it.
for him. Remember,
Yeah,
she's
they-
waiting there with them at the top.
Oh,
Yeah,
well.
because she's so she's in the hide, and she's they just
they
man.
may figure
Yeah,
it out.
But this is. I do want to talk about this. So the action we're talking about, suspending disbelief. I believe that works in action adventure movies. But when you establish Jurassic Park, all the action was very well coordinated and very realistic.
Yeah.
So, yes, characters will make stupid decisions. Is some things amplified for movie aesthetic? Yeah. But there was so much just eye rolling in this scene that was hard for me to stay on it. Is it fun? Yeah, I had a great time watching.
Absolutely. It's entertaining as fuck.
But at the same time, the believability was not there for me. But now the 2 groups are together. They're moving along. They're trying to stay together to survive.
They need to. They have no choice.
Yeah, they have no choice. And that's where we're seeing that the main poacher is, he's human. He's an asshole, but he's human because he's like, you follow me. Because they pulled him up off the cliff. And
they could have just let him die.
Yeah, it could have let him die
Would've been
because
easier to do
they've
that.
already fucked up their entire operation and destroyed their vehicles. So that's why they're all on foot. But they're all trying to make a plan together, and they're like, "Hey,
They don't have satellite communication, so they need to go back to their original home camp that got fucked up.
They keep saying village, but
It's where they had their home camp. They just call their home camp the village.
Yeah,
which
so,
is
like-
dumb as fuck. You'd call it.
yeah,
home camp.
we'll make it to this village, and we have satellite communication there. We just got to make it there.
So the whole next part of this movie is them making it there. But in that situation, you see an interaction between Vince Vaughn and the game warden talking, and he's like, the animal's been extinct for 85 million years, and the only way you can express yourself is to kill it, which I thought was a pretty fun line. I like that line. But then that line kind of leads into a little bit later. He sits down next to Sarah after Roland was saying, are you okay? And she's like, no, I got the blood on my shirts from the baby T-Rex. And they're sitting there. Roland puts his elephant gun down. Vince Vaughn looks over at it. And then that's the end of that scene.
So as they're trying to make it to the village, you're starting to see that we had this big group. The compies take out one of them.
Yes.
And then we're starting to see people getting picked off one at a time. While they're sleeping and camping, the T-Rex shows up again. This T-Rex is following them and fucking with them.
Because of the blood on her shirt. I think what Roland was doing in that, which I didn't think about this until I just watched it. He knows that's the T-Rex blood on her shirt, and he's like, "Oh, cool, bet. I'm gonna bag me a fucking T-Rex. I'm just gonna follow us, and I don't care who dies. I'm gonna get my fucking T-Rex."
Yeah.
So he is an asshole. He's a fucking prick. But that's good. That's good, subtle storytelling. That I think that's a Steven Spielberg part in there, right?
T-Rex
They don't
takes
deserve
out
that credit.
a bunch of people at this
He
point.
fucks shit up.
Yeah, in the camp, they all wake up and they're all running now in the middle of the night.
Yeah. And then this is when everybody goes. This is when they go their separate ways.
Yeah, this is
This
when
where-
people start getting split up.
Yep.
And then the Chris Stapleton character gets a snake in his like shirt and
It's
runs.
a coral snake.
Yeah, coral snake. So he's dead either way.
Yeah, so like he gets out. They're hiding in a waterfall from the T-Rex, and the T-Rex is pushing its head and nose in and out, and then the coral snake goes down his shirt. He's like, "Oh, coral snake!" and he goes out. So like Chase said, he's fucked either way. Probably better to go from the T-Rex at that point than the coral snake.
Yeah,
and the T-Rex grabs his arm and just pulls him up, and all of a sudden you hear and just red waterfall.
More
Great shot.
instantaneous.
Great shot. The other group of the poachers, they start. This is the part of the movie that really kind of scared me, which was they go into the tall grass.
Don't go in the tall grass.
Ajay's
Don't go in
saying,
the
don't
tall
go in the tall grass. The person who is clearly from India, who knows that predators love tall grass like tigers, don't go in there. And this is where I think the scariest out
This
of
was
all the
horrifying.
Jurassic Park. Like, this is very terrifying.
We're getting to the crescendo of the movie here. So everyone's separated and running for their lives. They're trying to make it to the village. And to get to the village, because they can see it in the distance, they have to go through the tall grass, which Kyle mentioned. As we peer up, we have this high shot of the tall grass. And we see these lines in the tall grass moving towards
The group of
the
men.
group, and it is revealed it's velociraptors chasing them through this
Pretty
tall grass.
quickly, too. Well, what happens first, though, Andrew? Like, how do we see that they're velociraptors besides the lines? There's just like a group of 3 guys, and like
I mean, one gets attacked from behind.
you just see like him
just-
like
he
throw
just
his hands up and
yanked
just
back.
yank back, and then you see a tail up, and then that's it.
You
Silence.
also, you don't hear anything.
Yeah, you hear the
terrifying.
quick screams of people.
Yeah.
But this was, to me, probably one of the scariest shots
Yeah.
in the entire franchise.
Agreed, yes.
This scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. I had to fast forward to this shot. And when I was a kid,
I mean, because
I
nobody
couldn't.
makes it out. No, they all die.
Yeah.
every single one of those.
There's
men,
like 30 of them or close to that, and they're all
Gone.
they're all perished.
and they all. But I always thought it was funny though because they all have weapons, but they don't have. They have the weapons that you think you would need, but you don't need. They all have high-powered bolt-action rifles with like giant Magnum like bullets and shit, like Nitro Express rounds. If you had velociraptors coming at you, pack hunters there's no equivalent like that in our world, maybe
In the
except for
tall
lions.
grass.
You would need shotguns, automatic weapons, maybe some sidearms, melee weapon. They were fucked. They didn't have a chance. And so
But
no
even,
chance.
Even in because you can't see them in the grass anyway. And once you do see them, it's too late. You're
They're
dead.
jumping up on you.
they're
Yeah.
so
They're
fast.
fast.
So they basically clear that whole group of people. These velociraptors take everybody out.
All of them.
And then we see Ian's group catch up at the appropriate time because the velociraptors have taken out everybody and moved on.
And then Vince Vaughn's character has gone ahead of them to try to go to the Welcome Center. He went out a different way to get there so that he could communicate so that they could all get out at the same time. I think this is one of the points that Andrew was like pissed about because he gets in there and everything just magically works.
Yeah, I was like, there's that geothermal energy being put to use.
Yeah, great.
Hasn't
So
been
true.
touched in like, I don't know, over a decade.
It was like 4 years, which
Yeah,
in the
okay.
jungle, a couple months is
Well,
plenty
I mean,
to
you
fuck it
even
all
see
up.
the trees and shit growing out of the
The
radio.
computers and the
so
radio.
it's like-
But it works like a charm thanks to geothermal
yeah,
energy.
so it's
you
like
know.
it's working. Vince Vaughn's already called in for help, and now Sarah, Ian, and his daughter have caught up, and they're going through the tall grass. Ian's like, run. And so they're running through, but all the velociraptors are already gone. So they catch up to the little village welcome center area looking for Vince Vaughn, and then that's when they're cornered by, what was it, 2 or 3?
I think it was
Three.
three velociraptors.
Yeah,
maybe
three
even 4.
Yeah, so the 3 or 4 velociraptors, and they're going through and just attacking them, and it's horrific and
Very tough scene to watch.
so vice versa to what we saw earlier with the T-Rex scene. This is a well-crafted action scene. Everything made sense. Andrew made the great point last night of like, yeah, sometimes you're frozen by fear, and fear makes you do a stupid thing. So I can accept some stupidity, but not a lot of it. Or especially, I can accept stupidity in fear, but I can accept stupidity in fear, and then you making jokes about it. So they don't do any of that here. They're kind of running around being like, where do we
against
go?
the fucking wall? And
Where are we going? There's one scene where Malcolm shuts his gas station door as he's trying to tell them to go ahead so he can like fend them off or separate them. And he shuts the door, and then the Velociraptor just jumps through the window.
Yeah.
And then he like opens the door. He's like, "Fuck
shit." Which I always thought that was like, that's how it would happen.
Yeah, that's good acting because he like, as a person, you're like, okay, that's a building. I can at least shut the door and lock it. And then he goes through the window, and he's like, well, that didn't work at all. And that's great comedy because it made sense. And the thing about action is I need it to make more sense than not. I can suspend my disbelief to some point, but after a while, you keep hitting me with it. I'm going to be like, okay, this is stupid, and I don't believe anything here. Yeah. But like they were making good decisions. It allowed me to accept the fact that when there's a point where Sarah and Malcolm's daughter get into the big
shed. It's like a big
shed, but it's like an industrial little building.
Yeah. There's not much to it.
There's not much to it, but it's got high beams on it, and they climb up to try it because the Velociraptors are trying to get into the shed. They climb up, and there's a point where his daughter does a fake ass gymnastics routine and kicks the Velociraptor through the window.
And she sends this thing
flying, which we talked about. If a Velociraptor even weighs 150, 200 pounds, which I don't know how much they were supposed to have weighed, but I'm sure it's probably somewhere around there.
This thing is big enough.
It's big enough. There's no way that she has the body mass to be able to kick that at how far did she kick
yards?
That?
Yeah,
like
it went
15
through the
feet?
window.
No, she said it's like 20, 30 yards. Like it was
like a lot.
It went flying.
Bullshit.
But because the rest of the scene was so well done, I was like, okay, like that's where I can suspend and be like, okay, whatever. So she kicks it out of the window, and it happens to fall on like some debris that has a stake sticking up, and so she lands on the stake, kills that Velociraptor. There's a segment in there though. This is where I'm starting to get mad again. After that, I'm like, whatever. But then there's a scene where Sarah, I don't know how she got on. She tried to escape through the roof.
And then she jumps across the Spanish tile roof across the way, and she's holding on
to one.
Purportedly holding on to
like the beam or whatever.
In between
in the
corrugation.
Other hands on one tile.
With her arm completely 90 degrees.
Well, she also, but
stretched
you
out.
can see her forearm like let off as she's like pulling down the Spanish tile to get the Velociraptor down, which was a good idea. But like it's just that kind of stuff. Like Chase was saying, like you would be hanging on for dear life and maybe being able to do that. And she's just kind of like reaching up, like I think I'll let my grip go real quick, and I'll just use my legs that have nothing underneath them to stand up. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Long story short, all this happens. They get away, obviously, and there's a helicopter to come get them
immediately. Andrew perks up. Andrew's energy was down, but he perked up and goes, perfect timing. And that's all he had to say in that instant.
Almost too perfect.
Too perfect. They get off the island. They're safe.
And where do they go?
And they go straight to San Diego.
San Diego.
Because Roland gets his T-Rex. See, we didn't talk about this, but he tranquilizes the T-Rex.
This is where we catch up. They're off the island now, and then we see that Roland has caught the T-Rex. He shoots the T-Rex.
A couple times, doesn't he?
Yeah, a couple times. He holds one of the Kyle points one of the darts in his mouth.
Yeah.
So,
like, that wasn't dangerous at all.
Super safe, and definitely like the load in there was enough to take down a T-Rex. If he would have like bit into that, it would have like liquefied him. He would have just died immediately. There was no way. I'm like, why the fuck would you do that? Of all that stuff happening, you're put it in your fucking mouth. Why don't you put it behind your ear at that point, or like put the tip in your tongue? Like, who fucking cares? Dumb shit. But
put
like
it in your pocket, jab yourself in the thigh.
So he gets his he bags his T-Rex, and he's like, and our sniveling businessman is like, why you've got your prize? Why are you so upset? What's up? What's going on? Oh, Jay, he didn't make it, and then we find out his friend didn't make it. None of those guys.
There's a bit of the group left. There, as the other group's getting away on the helicopter, they have a barge that they're about to load. He even says, he's like, well, outstanding work. There's going to be a job for you at the park if you want.
Thank you, but I think I've spent enough time in the company of death.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
which
he
is
walks away.
great.
Great line. And that was like his last line, I'm pretty sure.
I think
Walks
he's
away.
done. Yeah, he's done with that.
Which
at that
great, he gets off scot-free, asshole, but like he does save people, he saves our characters.
But he knows when to quit, like a perfect villain. He knows when to stop. The groups then again reemerge in San Diego. Their idea is to get the T-Rex to the amphitheater and still sell tickets. It's like, well, we couldn't get all the dinosaurs, but we got the main attraction. The timeline here is so fucked up.
Yeah, we got hung up on this last night because
It
like
was stupid.
we're talking about them making their way from this island off the coast of Costa Rica,
Not Hawaii.
Costa Rica, up to San Diego, which has got to be 1,000, 2,000 miles away on a barge, which would take probably a week, if not weeks, to make it happen. And this happens in
2
hours.
Yeah, 2 hours.
Absolute horse shit.
That literally takes up to 5 days.
Yeah, so
Yeah, there's zero chance.
yeah, so but it's a movie magic. We're speeding this along. I am not a fan of the San Diego part of this movie.
Well, I know. Yeah, this is your least favorite part of the movie.
And my least favorite part, and I think it takes the movie down a notch for me. But Steven Spielberg wanted to save this for the third movie. This should be in the third movie, but it's too good not to add in. He's
good.
He's like, it's too fun. It's too fun. So this was like...
It is fun, but it's
this
not
was
good.
tacked on, and it feels tacked on. So like budget cuts or whatever, they're there, and the other crew, I guess they didn't take the barge. The main businessman, Malcolm, and his girlfriend, they're there in San Diego, and he has this press conference. He's like, the barge will be showing up soon, and you'll see the wonders that we have coming through this new amphitheater of the new Jurassic Park. So trying to set up the next business model here. Malcolm and his girlfriend are trying to stop the press conference and whatnot. And then at the same time, they interrupt the press conference to tell him, hey, we got a problem. He's like, okay, cool. Yeah, all right. And so he goes to the like little, I guess like,
What do you call that room, Kyle?
command center.
Center, yeah.
Yeah, like
I don't know what you'd call it. It's just like the port authorities, like little radio communication room, and they're like
it's like the air traffic control
Yeah,
room.
essentially
it's like,
for ships.
And
yeah.
he's like, well, we've been trying to call the barge and no one's answering. And here's the blip, and it's moving at
Flank speed.
breakneck speed.
Our corrupt businessman friend, who's Hammond's nephew or son, who the fuck knows, he sees this happening, doesn't tell anybody to move, and just fucking slips out like a fucking weasel. So that was good writing.
Yeah.
Love that. But then this boat crashes into the actual pier, and then Sarah Harding and Ian are there. They go up inside and they're searching it, and then a police officer goes into the helm, and he's like the guy next to him was like, "Where's the crew?" And he goes, "Everywhere." And we see a really good shot of a hand clutching the wheel, just the hand. But then we come to find out when they open up the barge, like the actual doors to the cargo bay.
Yeah.
It's a giant fucking T-Rex, and there's no T-Rex baby because that's at the other side. How the fuck did those people die?
Yeah.
What happened to them?
We were sitting there.
There wasn't a velociraptor.
There was no
had to-
velociraptor
We had
there.
to pause this and like scratch our heads. There's no other dinosaur. There's one huge ass T-Rex on the barge that's been locked into the barge.
Yes, locked.
The crew on top level should be fine.
There's no way a T-Rex could even get in there.
yeah.
There's zero chance.
Or if it's in there, when you get on the boat, the T-Rex is going to be standing on top of the boat.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like
it's not going to get inside of a door.
and these people are being ripped apart, but somehow
It doesn't make any
Doesn't make
sense.
no- whatsoever.
or somebody should be alive.
It was just fucking horseshit, and
It
it
was-
pissed me off, honestly. Like
Yeah,
I'm pissed
I
off
mean,
thinking about it right now. And again,
Then wasn't the T-Rex still underneath the gate? So did it get out and get back in?
Yeah,
and like,
that's what we were saying. Is like how
shut the gate on itself. It's raining outside.
Yeah.
I better shut the gate on
it put itself in timeout. It done
I've
something
had
wrong.
enough now.
and then you have the hand clutching the gate door or the cargo bay door, the severed hand, which would not have.
It was in rigor
It
mortis.
was in rigor mortis, and it's holding the door. And this one fucking idiot just walks over, grabs the hand, opens the gate, and then that's how the T-Rex is in San Diego. No.
Bullshit.
We don't have to
bullshit.
talk about this
No.
that much, but he stampedes through San Diego. It doesn't look like San Diego, mind you.
It doesn't. It looks. What does it look? I don't know.
It just looks like suburban Los
So,
Angeles.
and I will say this: so Steven Spielberg was
Not even
always
suburban Los Angeles.
he was
but go
always
ahead.
a proponent of dinosaurs dinosaurs meeting reality. That was what Jurassic World was going to do later on with Fallen Kingdom and their other shitty movie. But so their idea of integrating dinosaurs into real life through the park system, love the idea, but we have failed to execute it yet. And so this scene that Steven Spielberg is like, oh, it's too fun to add in, was obnoxiously bad. Like from the time that the T-Rex made it to San Diego, where we had to like didn't even fill in the gap of how it like made it off the but like so it's running around San Diego.
He goes up to the window of that kid like lying in his bed who's like, oh, what's that?
Mom, there's a dinosaur outside my window.
And then his parents get so pissed. Just leave us alone. What are you talking about, son? It was horribly acted.
And then you look out the window and the T-Rex is eating the dog and just moved on. Not taking out any of the buildings, not trying to rip the kid out of the bedroom and eat it like we saw earlier with the van. So, like, we see it rip through an entire van to get to somebody. It wouldn't rip through that house or that door. It wouldn't do anything. It's running through the city streets, not really doing that much damage.
Hitting some cars and
hit some
shit.
cars,
Eating a guy.
destroyed a bus.
Ate a guy.
But the police are nowhere to be found.
No, that's not true. They are found, but it's at the pier at the very end of this whole sequence.
They don't go into the streets.
They turn the corner and they see this thing and they back the fuck up and go the other way because that's exactly what I would do. I'd be like, this is outside my pay grade. And then also the animal control vehicles there, and I thought that was fucking hilarious. That was a great little.
They put in the Japanese people running around and really hone in on the fact that, hey, let's put some Japanese people to play homage to Godzilla. That's not paying homage.
No, it's just being racist.
Yeah, so it's so another point down there, especially as someone who loves Godzilla like me. Just shut up, stay in your lane.
It was definitely, it wasn't needed.
After all this chaos in San Diego, which is not a lot of chaos, we don't see a whole lot of the T-Rex's rampage, which is kind of what you wanted. You're like,
wanted more of that.
Okay, you set this bullshit up of getting into San Diego. Give me something good. You gave me nothing. It eats one dog, takes out a bus,
eats a guy, kills a guy, eats a guy.
And then it finds its way to the pier or whatever.
Back to the pier because remember during all this happening, again, we're glossing over a lot. Ian and Sarah get the baby to get the muzzle off the baby so it can cry, so it can hear, and it goes, oh, I hear my baby. Oh, and then they get it back to the pier, and then they essentially they're like hoofing it. They put the baby in the cargo hold. They jump off the side while the sniveling businessman's behind them.
Well, and the sniveling businessman is like right on their tail. He is no more than 10 feet behind them, but somehow they're able to put the baby in the cargo bay, get out of there before he even gets down into the cargo bay. So he gets down, finds the baby, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna capture the baby. The baby's my bread and butter. And then we see the T-Rex show up and go back into the cargo bay. The weasel businessman is there. The mama T-Rex shows the baby how to hunt, basically. So they end up killing the businessman while they shut the cargo doors a second time, trapping the T-Rexes inside. And then that's where we finish the movie up, and they're watching the news conference of the bars taking the dinosaurs back to taking the dinosaurs back to Costa Rica. This time at real speed. It's not overnight. They're actually
it's like 6-7 days.
Yeah, they're following it with a live cam, and they have Navy destroyers like following it up.
Probably an Ohio class submarine.
Yeah, so like they're pretty realistic at that point.
Yeah, at the end.
Yeah, so
at the end.
Yeah, at the end
when it's all over,
and then that basically wraps it up.
That's it.
That's the Lost World.
That's the movie. Woo! Let's all take a collective sigh of relief after that one.
And then, so before we finish it up with our final rankings here, we still have a ride at Universal that still goes on today based on these movies. And what a hell of a ride, too. Hell of an ending for that ride with that big animatronic T-Rex, and you dive down 80 feet through water. The lasting impact of Lost World is still felt. And, of course, people can attribute that more to the first film, but this film was good enough at the time. It broke box office records, I'm sure. And it's still, I think it's more than one of those movies that was critically panned. And we look at it now with more of a fond memory than we did at the moment it came out.
Yeah,
I'd say that's fair. Yeah.
So Andrew, let's start with you. With some of your size in there, does this film hold up?
Yeah, it does. I mean, there's multiple times where you roll your eyes, and obviously you scream bullshit. But just the magic and the lore of Jurassic Park, it captures that essence, and you're still involved, you still care, and it's one of those movies like Independence Day, where if you're back home visiting with your family and this comes on at like 10 o'clock at night and like TNT or something like that, you're not going to turn it off. You're going to watch it. It's not like a gem of a movie, but it's good and it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And it holds up.
Kyle, how do you feel? Because you have stronger feelings.
Yeah, it definitely holds up. But it just based on like the continuity between the movies versus the books and what they both do, I think it definitely does. So being a fan of both of those, yes. Childhood nostalgia, 1000%. It still holds up as an adult. I still look at this in the same way as I did as a kid, but now with like, well, that doesn't make any fucking sense, and this doesn't make any sense. But like, if you were drinking with your friends and this came on, or like you came home after the night of drinking, or like you're inebriated in some way, shape, or form, and you watch this movie, it doesn't fucking matter. No. Like, this is a good movie. It's well put together. It's well acted.
It is well acted.
We didn't talk about this. A lot of the shots in this movie are pretty good. Pretty good shots. Cinematography's not great, not bad. It's like right in the middle. It's good stuff. There's a one shot in this one, Steven Spielberg shot, that's very good.
Yeah, leaving the island.
Yeah, and like, it absolutely don't need to get into it anymore. It holds up.
This hit all the nostalgia chords for me. Yeah, I thought it was a fun time. I had a good time watching it. I had a good time dissecting it. I had some really good stuff that I was like to your point, some of the shots, I was like, that's incredible. That holds up to this day. The animatronics hold up. The CGI was not even that bad.
No, the CGI was pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
For what it is. So it still stands the test of time. I still feel about the same way I did as a kid, because I remember as a kid not loving it as much as the original. But who would? You know, like, that's a legendary film, but definitely holds up. Andrew, what do we have with the IMDb ratings? Do you know?
I know what it is. I have my own opinion. I gave it like a 6.4. So
I figured. That's what I thought. I thought he was going to give it a 6.6.
Oh,
yeah.
How are you feeling now?
7.3.
7.3
on the nose. Yeah.
I keep going back and forth. I was thinking about it while we were talking. I was like, man, because I want to say 7.1, but I think 6.8. Especially when we started talking about the San Diego scene and the beginning scene. The bookends to this movie really left a lot to be desired for me. And that's just my personal opinion. I could accept the first one, but the San Diego scene wasn't as fun as it should have been.
No, there was a lot of missed opportunities there.
Yeah,
if we're going to use that dark comedy and that dark humor, it could have been all throughout there. And instead it was just, there's a dinosaur on the loose.
Yeah, I mean, you could have done a lot there, but it looks like it was a scene that he wanted to add that got budget cut. And it's sad because it's like a wasted 20 minutes of the movie that just, I mean, we were missing segments, right, of that because they were trying to move it quick, and it does not work at all. No. That whole San Diego scene, to me, I think drops it below a 7.
So I'm always going to be a little more generous with this. Also, my generous score also comes from the book, and it did a good job translating from the first movie to the second movie, not necessarily with the books, but it had enough in there to where I think that these are great. Like, they're both great movies.
I would totally watch it again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Its rewatch value is high.
I would love to rewatch it with some friends, too.
I'd love to do, like, a trilogy, like, watch through, like, a marathon, like 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and never watch the Jurassic World movies.
Jurassic World, I'm going to rate those right now 3 out of 10 for every single movie.
Now,
there's nothing good about them.
I will say this. I think I've rated this one lower than I rate the third one because I am an apologist for Jurassic Park 3.
I love Jurassic Park 3.
I love it.
I don't think there's any apologies that need to be made because it clips along. Everything really tracks in that movie. There's only a couple parts I'm like, I don't know about that.
I need to watch it again. It's been a minute, but when I had the box set as a kid, that
one's scary.
I always watched the third one.
Scary movie.
Well, you know the drill now. We've reached into your childhood nostalgia, found Jurassic Park, The Lost World, or The Lost World Jurassic Park, however you want to say it, pulled it out, found out it still holds up. We think you should watch this one again, or at least get drunk, as Kyle mentioned, and watch it with some friends. We had a great time together. We'll see you next time.